Hey, happy Saturday all. Hope you're all well. And it's actually significantly warmer today, so I'm feeling okay. Not so chilly, my hands aren't cold. Arthritis is fine, so all good. I'm feeling a lot better than what I did yesterday, to be fair. I had a bit of a hangover as the night before went out for a friend's leaving do. And I think I had, gosh, 2 beers. Honestly, I got a hangover. Now that's terrible because I used to better drink a lot in the past, and I was fine. And when you're younger, I mean, look, I remember first job in 1987 was working for Woolworths in the UK, and it was on a Saturday, sometimes on a Sunday, but Saturday mainly. And my God, I used to go out on the Friday night before and used to smoke and used to drink and all those things. I used to be a state, and I used to get in at like stupid o'clock in the morning and still roll up for work. I don't know how I did it. I really don't. And I'm guessing it's a bit like teenagers today that they do the same thing and they roll up for work and they're fine. And well, I don't think they're fine. They make out that they're fine, but they look distinctly grey and yeah, not the best. So that was kind of like me yesterday, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to be here. So it kind of puts it into perspective about why I don't drink, and yeah, it's a rare occurrence these days, and that's fine. It suits me down to the ground, not a problem. It kind of brings me on to what I want to talk about today, which is cigarettes. Watching the UK news, I listened to all this stuff about banning cigarettes in pub gardens and outside spaces like children's parks, etc. And I used to be a real. Well, let me go back to the beginning. So when I was about, I don't know, 5 or 6, I remember my nanny Poppy. She used to smoke. She used to smoke cadets, and she used to say to me, or I used to go with her, or I'd go on my own. We'd go into the newsagents and get her cigarettes. You know, like in the old days where you'd have a note and can you give my nan Poppy of such and such address these cigarettes, and they used to hand them over. It was fine, no problems. So, and I remember she used to let me open the cigarettes, and I used to love the smell. I really did love the smell of a freshly opened packet of cigarettes. So it was my dear grandmother's fault that I probably started smoking. And my nan, she was quite, God, I've got to think now. She was quite a tall woman. Um, she was very animated. She had purple, blue hair, however it was back in the day, as they used to have all back combs, and immaculate. She was dressed immaculately all the time. Her nails were done perfectly, and she always looked fantastic. And when she used to light up a cigarette, I mean, I remember I used to watch her, and she used to light up a cigarette, and you could tell it was part of who she was, and she looked so glamorous. I used to think, oh, how glamorous is that, you know? And I want to do that as well. That's the way it worked. I remember the story my gran told me actually that she used to work for Lyons Bakery during the Second World War, making bread, and they smoke. So they were smoking and making the bread, and the ash was falling in the bread, and different times. So I started smoking probably at the age of 13 ish. I suppose, look, back, I think a packet of cigarettes was about 59p, and I can't actually remember if that was for 10 or 20. It was whatever it was. It was a tiny amount of money. And we used to go to, or I used to go to the shop in Valentine's Close, which was very near to where I lived and the school, because we all sort of lived in the same catchment area as such. Used to sell you cigarettes, no problems. Used to sell you a single cigarette as well if you wanted it. So there was no discouragement from smoking, put it that way. And I started smoking mainly because I would say because of the anxiety I suffered with. So the smoking itself actually took that anxiety away, and I found that out from a very early age, sadly. So at 13, I was smoking cigarettes, and I hid it very well. I mean, I was smoking at school, and you'd always find a place to smoke. And one of the most anxiety-inducing places for a young gay guy growing up is in PE or the showers at school. I used to hate it, absolutely loathe it, and I would get out of physical education as much as I could by smoking cigarettes and just getting away from it, hiding, running away, whatever it was. I hated it with a passion. Physical education, I just could not stand. And look, I was a little plump kid, mainly because I wouldn't do physical education, and it's those teenage raging hormones, and you don't want to be around other kids in school, and this, you're different and you're gay and you're not like the other kids. Little do I know now. Well, now I know there was lots of gay kids at school, and I'm in contact with probably all of them, to be honest. But you don't know until you leave school. None of us were really out as such. But hey, that's going off the point. So anyway, smoking. I really started to smoke heavily, I suppose, at college. So it's really bizarre. It sounds awful. And today, it's life's so sanitized, but back then, we'd go to you go to college, and at the end of the road that the college was on, this is Fareham College, there was the Admiral Cunningham pub, and we would go in there and do our homework. Now, bear in mind, each of us were underage. We were not of age, to be fair. So 16, 17 years old. And we sit in there, I'd do my homework, I'd have a few beers. Well, actually, in my case, it was a glass of wine. I used to wear a bow tie to work to college as well. How bizarre is that? I wear a bow tie. If you didn't know I was gay, the fact I was wearing a colourful bow tie probably answered that question. Do you know what I mean? And I would often get drunk at college and smoke. I remember lying on a bench outside of, I think it was an IT lesson. I was so absolutely inebriated, I could not go in. And I was just trying to sober up outside. So I was terrible. Drinking at that point was awful, and smoking equally. When I left college, I took 2 years out, I think it was. And then I went to university. And that's really when my smoking was out of control. So I would smoke up to 80 cigarettes a day. Now, I do remember at that point, the cost of a packet of cigarettes was £1.99 for 20, and it was B&H Super King Red. And that was always my cigarettes of choice. I originally started off on smoking Marlboro Red, and they got a little bit expensive. So then I went on to B&H Super King Red. And I would cash checks at the local co-op or the student union shop, and like 50, I think it was up to £50 a time, and I'd buy my cigarettes, which wasn't prohibitively expensive then. It really wasn't. And I was a student and I didn't work. I just had my student grant and loan. So I got through a lot of cigarettes, in effect. So, and I would often be in the student union bar from when it opened to when it closed, doing work before lectures. I turned up to lectures drunk as well. That's another story. Don't want to talk about that. And I continued smoking right up until I was, oh my lord, I gave up fully in 2018. So what's that? It's about 33 years I smoked to varying degrees. I mean, I've given up in the past, I restarted. I never took anything, so I never had patches or Nicorette or anything like that. It was literally I just gave up willpower. But equally, I had no willpower and started smoking again equally as fast. So smoking has always been there for me. And I suppose in 2018 when I got back from Spain, because cigarettes were exceedingly cheap in Spain, so in between 2016 and 18 when we lived there, it was, I think they were €4.30 for a packet. And I got into mojito clicky cigarettes. So you click the cigarette and you'd have that mojito flavour, etc. I actually incidentally, I saw them at the airport in Vietnam for coming back, and we're not allowed to bring anything back into Australia, so I couldn't have got any just for even sort of, for memory purposes. But they were Lucky Strike, they were clicky cigarettes, and I adored them, mojito flavour, and they were great. But they really increased my smoking in Spain, which goes to show that flavoured cigarettes, yes, ban them, really, they are so bad, and they really got me hooked again. So I've given up. I haven't smoked now for quite 6 years, and I feel healthy. I mean, initially I put on so much weight. I really put on a lot of weight, giving up cigarettes. But now I've trimmed right down and I don't smoke, and I'm really glad I don't. Now, the other half does vape. He's given up smoking as far as I'm aware. I think he might have a crafty one every now and again, but he vapes and he can't stop that. And I think vaping is just bad, and in time it will cause untold amounts of damage, and with research you'll see that eventually because they're bad. I think they're worse probably than cigarettes, to be honest. So the UK is thinking about banning smoking in public places, and I think it's a bloody good idea, to be honest. As an ex-smoker, who I am told are always the worst, I truly believe that we need to live in a smoke-free world. At some point in my life, I'm going to get something because of the smoking I did in the past, and it's probably COPD, etc. I mean, my grandmother, who I talked about at the beginning, it's quite funny because she always said she smoked but never inhaled. I don't quite believe that. And she gave up in probably the late 70s, early 80s. So she smoked a good number of years, didn't inhale, but she still got COPD, and I'm almost ready for it. I've kind of planned for that because that generally was what's going to happen. But at least now I am living a smoke-free life, and I can breathe. I can walk up the stairs without getting out of breath. I can smell things I remember when I actually gave up smoking, I could smell things I'd never smelt or hadn't smelt since I was a young child. And the major one was freshly cut grass. It's lovely. I could smell all these things. It was like walking out of a haze, literally, of smoke into the real world. And it was lovely. I got my sense of smell and taste back. And that was great. It was worth it just for that, to be honest with you. So, if you smoke, give up. As I say to the other half, give up. Do you really need to? I think Australia are banning vapes as well soon. And they're not going quite as far as the UK with cigarettes, I don't think at the moment, but they probably will. And I know free-thinking conservative voters will say it's everyone's right to smoke and all the rest of it. Fair enough. But when you've got the health service paying for all the ailments and illnesses because of smoking, It needs to go. It needs to stop. And as individuals, we need to move on from it. It was look, when you look back in Victorian times, it was popular to take opium. It was quite a legal thing to do, and young kids would be hooked on gin. None of those things exist today because we realise how bad they were for us. So smoking needs to be relegated to the past where it belongs. And as I said, coming from me, who was a hardened smoker, and I used to enjoy the process of smoking. So I'd have a Zippo lighter, I'd have a proper cigarette case, little metal case. Mere smoking, lighting up a cigarette, that process that was involved was a big thing for me. And I think when you're an anxious person like I am, anything that detracts from your anxiety is good. But it's also very dangerous. I mean, these days I'm hooked on sugar-free mints, and my teeth are a mess because of it. So I chew through so many of them, and I've got broken teeth now because of my mint addiction. I guess it's my addictive personality. I don't know. But I've waffled on too much. Smoking needs to go. Give up. Relegate it to the past. Move on. Find something else to do. As I say, blogging, vlogging, etc. That also takes away from the need to smoke now, which is great. Walking, getting fresh air, all those things. And by any shape of the imagination, I'm not some fit and health freak. Really, I'm not. But I do look after myself now because I am aware of the mistakes I've made in the past, and I'm trying to make up for lost time. I don't want all these ailments associated with smoking, and I'm getting older, and I feel a little bit older. I got the aches and pains, and I don't want the other stuff that comes with it. So giving up was the best thing I did, and you need to do it too. So, ciao.